Why is it called Good Friday? Still, why call the day of Jesus' death Good Friday instead of Bad Friday or something similar? Some Christian traditions take this approach. In German, for example, the day is called Karfreitag, or Sorrowful Friday. In English, the origin of the term good is debated. Some believe it developed from an older name, God's Friday. Regardless of the origin, the name Good Friday is entirely appropriate because the suffering and death of Jesus, as terrible as it was, marked the dramatic culmination of God's plan to save his people from their sins. For the gospel's good news to have meaning for us, we first must understand the bad news of our condition as sinful people under condemnation. The good news of deliverance only makes sense once we see how we were enslaved. Another way of saying this is that it is essential to understand and distinguish between law and gospel in Scripture. We need the law first to show us how hopeless our condition is. Then, the gospel of Jesus' grace brings us relief and salvation. In the same way, Good Friday is good, because as terrible as that day was, it had to happen for us to receive the joy of Easter. The wrath of God against sin had to be poured out on Jesus, the perfect sacrificial substitute, for forgiveness and salvation to be poured out to the nations. Without that awful day of suffering, sorrow, and blood at the cross, God could not be both just and the justifier of those who trust in Jesus. Romans 3 verse 26. Paradoxically, the day that seemed to be the greatest triumph of evil was actually the death blow in God's gloriously good plan to redeem the world from bondage. The cross is where we see the convergence of great suffering and God's forgiveness. Psalms 85 verse 10 sings of a day when righteousness and peace will kiss each other. The cross of Jesus is where that occurred, where God's demands, his righteousness, coincided with his mercy. We receive divine forgiveness, mercy, and peace because Jesus willingly took our divine punishment, resulting from God's righteousness against sin. For the joy set before him, Hebrews 12 verse 2. Jesus endured the cross on Good Friday, knowing it led to his resurrection, our salvation, and the beginning of God's reign of righteousness and peace.